Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk.
It's the morning drive. Good morning with me, Tim Elliott, and it's the true cost of getting construction wrong. Now, in construction and interior fit out, defects at project handover are often brushed off as unavoidable, just kind of part of getting the job done. But what if they're not inevitable at all? And what if those so-called minor issues are quietly draining money, perhaps? I was going to say millions, maybe that's an exaggeration, but if it's draining money from project budgets, it's worth discussing. Now, Kevin Mashford is the CEO of Verve Interior Design and Build, more than 25 years international experience, the UAE, the UK, and he says rework caused by defects can consume between 5 to 12% of a project's total cost, and that unique pressures in the UAE make the problem even worse. Kevin is also the chairman and the trustee of the Transplant Association in the UK. He's a powerful advocate for heart health. He's survived a number of strokes, I believe, and has undergone life-saving heart transplant surgery as well. And here he is. Kevin, nice to meet you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here. Let's start with the business aspects here. 5 to 12% of a project's total cost is a hefty figure for sure. Defects at handover often seen as unavoidable. The whole kind of snagging list thing is normal, of course. But why is this like an industry norm?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We're kind of trying to prevent that being a norm, and I think that culture can be driven out, and it's been my kind of goal from starting with Verve. We have a new mantra, which is on time, on budget, defect free, and that can be achieved. In fact, one of the first projects that I was involved with from start to finish, we partnered with a company called CSQ, and we set this out early days with a view to making sure that we do drive out the defects. As you say, the cost is enormous, but not only the financial cost, and it absolutely is into the millions. What you said wasn't an exaggeration, but it's more about reputational cost as well.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's interesting. When I was a kid, I worked a summer for a well, it was window cleaning really, but we used to go into houses that had just been redone or building sites, new homes, and you'd scrape the paint off the light switches and do cleaning and stuff like that. We used to say we were transparent wall maintenance engineers, which I always thought was a nice thing to do. But it was amazing what you would find, and it was this real kind of, it was just slapdash.
It's his lack of attention to detail.
It really is, yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's this. If you could, and I know it's difficult. I know there are deadlines. I know people are being pushed, but it's just that little bit more extra care, isn't it?
It's exactly that, and it goes back much further than that. If I'm honest with you, defect-free delivery starts even with the client in terms of getting their kind of employees' requirements or the client requirements really nailed early on in the project, because the more you plan, the more you adhere to anything that the client wants to achieve, and whether that's a specification, whether it's a timeline, whatever that clear, defined scope is, defects should be designed out of that process right from the start.
Right.
And it doesn't end. Obviously, you get the workmen who are always blamed at the end of the project for snagging, and sometimes that is the case. Let's face it. But actually, a lot of things can be designed out early on in a project.
Okay, so when we say defects, what does that normally include? Is that could be just very small imperfections, or I suppose it leads to major failures as well.
Yeah, I mean, a defect is kind of defined by anything that doesn't comply with sort of standards, scope, or even timeline. So, everybody's familiar with a defect in terms of you walk into somewhere and you see, like you say, paint on the light switches or a light fitting that's not quite fitting properly. But they could be much more serious than that. If you deliver a project with a completely wrong specification of, say, ceramic floors or wall tiles, or you haven't done waterproofing somewhere, those defects have long-lasting effects, and actually the cost of reworking that kind of a defect or a snag at the end is enormous. You have to, the implications of taking down walls, lifting up floors, yeah, those implications are huge, and again, the time and reputational cost on top of that.
Okay. I mean, research that I quoted just there, rework can account for between 5 and 12% of total project costs. I guess potentially even higher if you're taking down walls,
Yeah.
etc. Where does that loss really come from? Where is it centered?
Well, that's a good question. There's various ways where cost comes into it, but again, it comes down to time. If your project isn't delivered defect free on time,
Right.
you're then into a time overrun. Obviously, anything with time has a cost implication. You've got more prelims on a project, and also from there, the client has had specific deadlines related to his timeline. And actually, if they have to take additional space for the period of time that you're reworking, and it costs them extra rent. And then, of course, you get into penalties. You don't deliver a project on time, and there's penalties in the contract. Then that can be enormous costs per day, per week, and it all adds up. So actually, the snowball just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and every time you have to go back to that project once you've finished, as our business as Verve, it costs us money to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So design it in or design it out.
Design it
before you're in.
out. Design it out is the thing.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So why are costs like this so often underestimated, or are they even hidden from clients?
Well, look, defect cost shouldn't be the client shouldn't bear the cost of defects. Ultimately, like I said, with our mantra of defect-free delivery, there is a price, there is a scope, there is a set of drawings, and we deliver that to the specification on time without any defects. So realistically, there shouldn't be any additional cost to clients. I think there has been there's a kind of an industry, a kind of other contractors that have been around. The amount of projects that we've rescued from contracts that have kind of gone in, not delivered, not been able to deliver. They've promised the world when they've failed to do that. And actually, we've come in kind of halfway through a project where a client's just had enough, and we've rescued the project. So that, and again, but that has a cost to the client, because the client's employed somebody to do a project. They've probably paid them an advance payment or some stage payments. And then to actually get rid of a contractor on a site, that takes a lot of time. Getting a new contractor on board, again, more time. As I keep coming back to, the more time you spend on a project, the more it ends up costing the client.
Yeah. So project owners effectively pay for the same thing twice, or potentially do.
Yeah.
You've worked internationally, obviously, many years in the UK doing this. It's not an issue unique to the UAE, but what is it about this country that perhaps makes it more vulnerable to defect-related work?
Yeah, in a way, I mean, what makes Dubai such a special and great place to be is the kind of multiculturalism that we have here. But of course, on construction sites, you've got people from all around the world. You've got different standards that have been set around the world, and then you've got a different skill set in terms of people coming onto site. In the UK, for example, we have a big, huge apprenticeship type scheme where you train skills to particular standards, and that might not necessarily be the case in other parts of the world who have ended up in Dubai. Right. So what you're dealing with, multiple trades on any project, and you have to really understand the ability to deliver those projects. And again, it comes back to the designers, it comes back to the technical draftsmen, detailing up our shop drawings, and then a very competent project team on site with a site manager, site supervisor, who can translate those drawings into actual work. So what we've got in this country is people from all around the world, and that communication needs to be consistent across that. Now we're trying in Verve to bring on more of our own guys. I've employed a QA manager who spent a lot of time on the tools himself. Now, he's not just a typical QA manager for Verve. He's a guy who has worked on site, seen it, done it, all of it. So our objective is with this guy, when he sees something that is occurring on site, he will go back and he will spend the next 2 days actually working on the tools with our guys. So it's a mentorship program, a training program, as well as getting the QA right. So once they see how to deliver a certain task, that defect doesn't happen again. And he goes away and he ticks his box in terms of that is now a good standard. So back to the question, what makes it unique is translating all of those different kind of regions into one place and establishing one standard. Now we're establishing our own standard, because we feel we have to, and that's what we're going to do to kind of make our mark in the industry.
I guess a lot can be lost in translation, can't it?
Absolutely,
And that's really an issue. QA, I should point out, QA, quality assurance.
That's right. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the speed of delivery as well? One of the things that we're all very aware of, and anecdotally you can see this just by driving around Dubai, is there is no shortage of projects, infrastructure projects, real estate projects. The speed at which buildings go up and infrastructure is, being finalised is, I think, mind-bogglingly fast.
It's phenomenal.
It really is. So fast-tracking things like that, and I guess just the pace of delivery and timelines and deadlines, that has to contribute, surely.
I'd say that's probably one of the biggest contributors, if I'm frank with you.
Yeah.
We also have a thing about we have to say no. Okay, clients don't like to hear no. Clients don't like the pushback. But actually, as a responsible contractor, when we say no, that's not possible to a client, we're doing it with the best interests of our client. And we have to be the bad news guys, okay? Project management is about delivering bad news about a project, but also then delivering a solution to that bad news. And often, again, I keep coming back to this, early on in the project is where you win. You win or lose a project at the early stages. And that's when a competent contractor will actually say, no, we need to just slow this period down. This pre-construction period where we get the design right, get everything signed off, get all the materials signed off, that is a really crucial stage of the project. And then the timeline, if your contractor is a competent contractor, if they're saying your timeline is unachievable, then it probably is, okay? So as much as you push, and of course they do, and of course we have to deliver quickly, but there is a point in which that project delivery speed is detrimental to the quality of a project. We like to deliver projects, so our completion time is a different completion time to our clients, because I like to complete our project and then we start any QA and defects period before the project is officially complete and signed off. So that's what gives us the time at the back end of the project. And having that time at the back end enables that process of a proper, calm handover to our clients.
And I guess people need to realise that if you're saying, no, I can't do it, you don't want to be turning away a job. You want to be making money.
Of course, yeah.
But your reputation is worth more than that, I guess.
Again, if a client pushes to the point where I don't believe it's possible for us to deliver that project, I'll respectfully back away from the contract and I'll say, thank you very much, we're not the contractor for you. There's that kind of triangle of cost, delivery, all that, where you can't have a fast, cheap project with perfect quality. It just doesn't happen. And we are setting our standards out. We want to give you a quality project within a reasonable timeline. We're not slow, far from it. In fact, we're very, very quick. But we'll only deliver what we know is possible to deliver. We won't overpromise. As soon as you overpromise, you fail.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a standard thing wherever you go, isn't it? Yeah, I can do that for you. Be done by tomorrow, and you think, well, you've not delivered yet. Why is it late? I've just had a coffee machine fixed, and oh dear me, it was back twice, and then it wasn't fixed, and then besides,
Again, you'd rather be told up front it's going to take 2 weeks.
if you said to me, well, exactly that, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, the expectation of you're going to do this by tomorrow. That's fantastic. I'm going to recommend you to everybody I know, and of course, it's not done, and then I end up shouting. And
The complete opposite happens.
yeah, it's a shame. So design coordination and specification errors, a bigger issue than workmanship, do you think?
It all contributes to the same result. Getting the design right, getting the specification right, getting all your materials, everything properly planned. Okay, proper prior planning prevents poor performance. It was difficult to say at this time of the morning.
I was going to say, try that one again.
So getting all that right up front enables, and that's the thing. It's enabling our site team to deliver that project, properly.
Okay. And it's also, I mean, a lot of this I'm getting is, I was going to say it's a mentality that you have, and I'm not saying that you're repeating yourself, but there's almost a mantra in what you're saying here. It's like a mindset here.
It's a mantra, it's a mindset, and it's a culture, and I'll be honest with you, it's a kind of a shifting culture. In terms of Verve, we're on an aggressive growth strategy over the next 2 to 3 years, but we won't do that by compromising our quality. So you have to have that mantra. If you don't stick to that mantra, you will just fail. And say our growth, we're set to double the size of the business in the next 12 months. We can't do that by compromising.
Yeah. Okay. Do you hear this kind of thing a lot? You'll tell a client how it needs to be, and this is how it is, and you'll say it again. And do you get people looking at you as though is that all you've got? But this is, if you want this on time.
Yeah.
This is how it has to be. You almost have to sell this, don't you?
You do, and it's difficult because some people just want it at that price and at that speed, and if it's not possible, I've often said, I say it to our guys quite a lot. Sometimes you do better at the projects that you don't do. Like, we want to do all the projects, of course we do.
Yeah.
But when we see that set of circumstances where somebody wants it in an unrealistic timescale, I'd rather let somebody else have a go at it because I know it's going to fail.
You're the guy that goes to people's houses and walks in and thinks, not one of ours, aren't you?
Very good point.
You're that guy. So look, when you kind of pointed to this earlier, but I'm interested in this. When handover happens and defects are pointed out and snagging hopefully it's just snagging rather than rebuilding, knocking down walls. Where does accountability usually fall, and where should it fall? Really to the theory.
Yes. Look, we're the contractor, right? So we're responsible. Yep. Ultimately, we are accountable for that project, and this is why if it's not a realistic project, it's not a project for us. So the accountability starts with your contractor. Now, like I said, and I keep repeating this, it starts early on. Yeah. And those conversations with clients. And I think, again, once people who are looking to kind of refurbish their villa or whatever at the moment, it's different in terms of sectors. So we've got residential, automotive, and commercial. Commercial's our biggest sector. And with the commercial sector, it is kind of easier to explain those timescales and those parameters of how a project gets delivered properly than it is in a residential, because often you've got people just want their villa refurbished as quickly as possible because they need to move in, and of course they have no construction experience. They've got no fit out knowledge in many ways. They're just being sold to. So I think if you're planning a kind of villa refurbishment, it's really to take proper advice from a reputable contractor in terms of setting out those, really define what you want out of the project. Employees' requirements are a part of a contract, okay? Often it's overlooked. So really write down exactly what you want out of your project. And that can be everything to do with the specification, everything, the way you want your lights to work. If anything you think about you want, you write it all down and you give it to a contractor early on and say, that is my scope to deliver this project. And if the delivery date is January the 1st, that is it. That's the scope.
I was expecting you to carry on there, but that is it, isn't it? Do you think, you're in Dubai, a couple of years now, aren't you? Okay. Do you think that the industry is a little bit comfortable when it comes to accepting defects rather than kind of building this prevention mechanism in?
Yeah, I do. Frankly, I do. Yeah. But I think for Verve, it's the culture of change, and it's a culture of changing expectations. And I want people to look at our company and go, they're the guys. Yeah, they will push back. They will push back. They will say no, but they'll deliver a proper project. So, I want to differentiate Verve by that. Not the fact that we will just say yes to every project and get on with it, and accept that there's a couple of months worth of snagging to do when the client's already sat in their office. I don't think it's acceptable.
Yeah, it's a great form of advertising, though, isn't it? When somebody says, "Oh, they were good," you should talk to them. Yeah. One more thing on this, and I wanted to ask a little bit about you. You have an interesting backstory, Kevin, I guess, or life story, really. But is there a change that could have the biggest impact on reducing defects in the UAE? Is it as simple as change the way you think, just be better?
It's very, for me, it's very simple. Get the scope defined, allow adequate time to define that scope, and adequate time to build it. If you rush any of the parts of that project, you're going to fail to deliver.
Okay, it's just one more thing's occurred to me. I'm always like, last thing, and then I think, one more. uh, any developers or I guess clients that might be listening or watching this, what should they be asking their contractors that perhaps they wouldn't otherwise?
I think the question of sometimes I think where I've had it from actually really competent contractors, they will actually test you a little bit, and they know what's achievable. You know, the big developers out here know what's achievable and what's not. And actually, I think in many ways, if you say yes, 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 yes at an interview, then they suss you out pretty quickly. Okay, so yeah, I think just that being a proper professional project management outfit defines you.
Let me ask a little bit about you, because your personal journey, I guess, has been nothing short of extraordinary. You've had a number of health challenges. I know that, and I'll allow you to detail those rather than me. But it's changed the way I guess your outlook on life, the way you lead, the way you make decisions. But how has that informed your work and your life?
Well, yeah. So, the kind of backstory is, I was born with congenitally corrected transposition of the greater arteries, which is another mouthful on a Monday morning. I also had an enormous hole in the heart, and basically every single one of my arteries worked in reverse. So it was a complete hodgepodge of a heart.
Right.
My first operation was when I was 8. At that point, when they opened me up to do what they thought was going to be a routine hole in the heart operation, that's when they really realised the extent of my problems with my heart. So the 4-hour planned operation turned into 8, and then it was a very short break and back into surgery and another 16 hours. So that was my first operation. I was told, my parents were told at that point, there's no way I'm going to survive. You know, they did all of the necessary arrangements to prepare for my death at that point.
Wow.
Surprise, surprise, I didn't. I then, had numerous operations throughout my life. My chest has been open 7 times for major reconstructive heart surgery. I've had 3 pacemakers, 2 defibrillators, internal, and then it all led to my heart transplant, which was 14 years ago. And the transplant was literally life-changing. You know, I couldn't walk 50 yards at that point. I was admitted indefinitely in hospital, so I was either going to die in hospital or get a heart.
Right.
And I was extremely lucky. I was in hospital for 6 weeks, and I didn't have any false alarms. And on the day, in a bizarre way, I knew. I knew I had this feeling. I'd been on the waiting list for over a year by now, but I had a weird feeling that day. In fact, I even text my wife, I've got a funny feeling about today.
Really?
And long story, very, very short. The transplant coordinator came in and pulled the soundproof curtain around and said, look, there's a potential match. We're going to start preparing you for surgery. In typical my kind of heart health wise, a heart transplant normally takes 8 hours. Mine took 16 because my heart was so diseased and scar tissued over the years. It filled the chest cavity. So before they could even, it took them 8 hours to get my heart out. Yeah. So and anyway, I woke up. I woke up feeling like a new human being. I didn't feel like a human being. I felt superhuman when I woke up. And that's why, since then, best health I've ever been in.
I can imagine. I mean, you then took up cycling, didn't you, to honour your heart donor? It must be really difficult to know what to do for somebody that's given you something that they no longer.
Yeah,
I mean,
for me, it was such an easy acknowledgement at the time, because I've mentored children with heart disease how to get well after surgery, and very simple logic is that. But so I knew how to get better after surgery, breathing properly, getting sat up, all of those things. So I found out fairly early on that my donor had died in a cycling accident. So I decided to get on an exercise bike as soon as I possibly could, and that was on the 7th day post-heart transplant. And I did 7 minutes in acknowledgement of 7 new days of my life. And it was that was the point where I thought, I'm going to do this a little bit more. And it all got a little bit out of hand.
You did a lot more.
I did a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the first big ride I did was the London to Brighton for the British Heart Foundation. And then I decided to set up a charity and thought it'd be cool to cycle from where I lived down in the southwest of England in Bristol to the northeast, where I had the transplant in Newcastle, which is 342 miles. And you can convert that to kilometres, but it's a long way either way.
It's 550 something.
Yeah, it's a long way.
Huge.
So I put a little note out on my Facebook account, and the Team MASH ride was born. 50 people joined me. We raised £50,000, which started the charity, and we put that to nurse education around transplant life.
It's remarkable. And all the while that you're suffering all these issues, you're building Verve as well.
Well, yeah. So no, I mean that's in the past. I've recently joined Verve in the last kind of 6 months. But
Okay.
I mean, if you talk about defect-free delivery, that's one, right? You can't get a heart transplant wrong.
I have a feeling you're doing what you're supposed to do.
I think I am.
There's a point there. Kevin, look, lovely to meet you. Kevin Mashford is the CEO of Verve Interior Design and Build. Really appreciate you coming in this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. This is Mirror Business FM.